Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Hey, yo, hold your horses. Let's not take it to the stupid. I don't know what the problem is out here with these boxing fans. Nobody is really talking about the Andy Cruz, Raymond Muratalla fight. I'll be honest with you, man. This fight is being slept on. Why? I don't know. Now, I'm doing my part. I've done several videos. I'm doing more today. But I just think people, if they're not taking this fight serious, they're really going to miss out on a really good fight this weekend. Now, this video is just about Raymond Muratalla. Then I'm going to do another video on Andy Cruz. So let's just jump right into it. Make sure you like and subscribe. Become a member to the channel. Leave that donation for that fried rice and chicken wings. Now, for Raymond Muratalla, I understand what he brings to the table. I understand Andy Cruz being a big threat. Technically, he's slick. He doesn't have that many fights. But Andy Cruz, for a lot of people, is the favorite. Not by much. But for Raymond Muratalla, when he steps into the ring against the Cuban sensation, Andy Cruz this weekend, he's not just facing another undefeated fighter. He's facing one of the most technically gifted, elusive boxers of this generation. Andy Cruz is the type of fighter who frustrates opponents, breaks their rhythm, and exposes impatience. That's exactly why Muratalla's preparation under the great Robert Garcia is so critical. This fight will not be won by talent alone. It will be won by discipline, conditioning, pressure, and mental clarity. And even if you don't think, which I haven't heard anybody say this nonsense. I heard one person saying, oh, Muratalla doesn't stand a chance. I'm like, if you will say that about Muratalla, who's undefeated, right? So you don't become undefeated and not being able to fight. But at least give some credit to Robert Garcia, the trainer. Robert Garcia always puts together outstanding game plans. He makes sure his fighters are ready and his fighters win. That's one thing about Robert Garcia. His fighters, no matter what, they just win. Now, Andy Cruz is a slick boxer, and he is a problem, and they got to figure out a way to solve that problem. Elite footwork. He got a punch on him. He's got timing. He got spatial awareness. He doesn't just move. He controls distance. He makes fighters miss by inches, counters off their mistakes, and forces them to reset constantly. He's comfortable fighting off the back foot, pivoting out of danger, and turning defense into offense instantly. For Muratalla, the challenge isn't simply just landing punches. Hit him in the shoulder, hit him in the arms, hit it wherever you can hit him. Make the referee do his job. It's not that simple. The challenge is cutting off space without overcommitting, staying balanced, and not allowing Cruz to dictate tempo. That's where Robert Garcia's camp comes in. You see, Robert Garcia's role, turning pressure into intelligence. Robert Garcia is one of the best trainers in boxing at preparing fighters to beat slick, evasive opponents. I remember when Freddie Roach was getting Oscar De La Hoya ready to face Fernando Vargas. Freddie Roach said he wasn't worried about, I think it was Robert Garcia. I think that was a fight. Anyway, he said he was worried about the old man. And what he was talking about was Robert Garcia's father, Eduardo. That's who he was talking about. Because he knew that his dad was really the brains over there, and his dad's the one who developed champions in his sons. So we're going to see if Robert Garcia can actually come out here and turn the pressure into intelligence. Now, he's done a very good job of preparing fighters to beat slick, evasive opponents. And his philosophy is simple but brutally effective. Smart pressure beats all the flashy movement. In this camp, Muratalla hasn't been trained to chase Andy Cruz around. He's been trained to walk him down intelligently, using foot placement, jab positioning, and controlled aggression. Garcia understands that Cruz thrives when opponents get emotional. So the goal has to be to build Muratalla into a calm, relentless presence who takes away space inch by inch, cutting the ring off with the least amount of footsteps, throwing that jab to the body to stabilize Andy Cruz, making him uncomfortable and hurting him. Now, the diet is going to be very important because for Muratalla, in order to implement and to sustain the game plan that Robert Garcia wants, which is constant pressure, he's going to need a 12-round engine. Now, Muratalla's diet in this camp has reportedly been very clean, disciplined, and performance-focused. No excess weight cutting, no drastic rehydration. The goal isn't to look shredded. For Muratalla, is to maintain sustained output for 12 rounds. That is what he has to do in order to give himself the best chance possible to win this fight. Now, based on what I've researched online, his nutrition has emphasized lean proteins for muscle recovery, complex carbohydrates for long-lasting energy, proper hydration to maintain sharp reactions, anti-inflammatory foods that keep joints and legs fresh. Against a mover like Cruz, fatigue equals failure. I'm going to say it again. You got a mover like Cruz in there and you get tired, you will fail. If Muratalla slows even slightly, Cruz is going to take over the fight, control the pace, and have his way. That's why I feel cardio and conditioning is the real weapon. Matter of fact, when I finish this video, I'm going running. This fight will be on the legs, not on the hands. Everybody worrying about the knockout, the fast hands. Nah. I don't care about all that counter punching. Forget that. It's about who is going to have the better conditioned legs to avoid the trouble in the beginning, to pick up the pace in the middle, and try to close the show by the late rounds. Now for Muratalla, his conditioning work has likely centered on long road work mixed with interval sprints, extended sparring rounds past fight distance, high output bag sessions with minimal rest, footwork drills designed to maintain balance under pressure. So the plan is to force Cruz, again, like I said, to work every second of every single round. Even when Cruz isn't being hit, he must be made to move, pivot, reset. That constant movement drains energy, and Robert Garcia knows this better than anyone. And anyone who's been following boxing are probably aware of this as well, because they have a guy in the heavyweight division who's been up there just tearing everybody out the frame, and that is Alexander Usyk, because he does the same thing. And when fighters want to rest, he forces them to fight because of his extreme, outstanding, beyond comprehension conditioning. Now, as far as the power, I think most would agree that Muratalla is probably the more powerful boxer out of the two. So, as far as physicality, without bulking, this is where the strength comes in. Now, Muratalla hasn't been trying to outmuscle anybody, and he's not going to try to outmuscle Cruz, but he's been trying to become physically imposing without sacrificing speed. That means functional strength training focused on core stability for balance during exchanges, leg strength for cutting off the ring, grip and upper body strength for inside control and clinches. When Muratalla gets close, Cruz must feel resistance. He must hesitate. He's got to feel something. He's got to feel the strength from Muratalla. He got to start to feel a sense of discomfort. Even brief moments of physical pressure can disrupt a slick fighter's rhythm. Muratalla has to achieve this. At the end of the night, in my opinion, he got to make the referee do his job. If not, Andy Cruz is off to the races. Now, some people say, oh, that's good, but what about the sparring? Who the hell is he going to find to mimic the Cuban style? To that I say, in the most respectful way, shit, I don't know. But if anyone thinks it's easy to find somebody who fights like Andy Cruz, to that I say, in the most respectful way. Hey, yo, hold your horse and stop taking it to the stupid. One of the most important elements of this camp has been sparring selection. Muratalla has almost certainly been working with fast-footed southpaws and switch hitters, fighters who throw quick counters and move laterally, boxers who frustrate, not brawl. So the goal hasn't been to win sparring. It's been to solve problems, remain patient, and learn how to apply pressure without judging. You may say, what do you mean win sparring? It's basically in there going to war. That's not what sparring's about. You're not sparring to win. You're sparring to solve problems, work on the things you're doing wrong, to tighten up. Now, in Canelo's camps, it's been rumored that for guys like Canelo, when they go into the sparring, the sparring partners he bring in, the sparring partners are trying to win. It's not to solve problems. And some people believe that sometimes Canelo has peaked during training camp and not peak on fight night. And although he's won a lot of his fights, they do feel that showed up against Bivol and that showed up against Crawford. So I want to see if Muratalla can apply that pressure without lunging. Now, Robert Garcia camps, I don't care what anyone says, man, his camps, he got his shit together. You got to give a man credit. But they're notorious for demanding sparring sessions that mentally exhaust fighters. If Muratalla can stay composed in camp, he can stay composed on fight night. And that's why mental preparation may be the most important piece of all this. Andy Cruz wins many fights before the opening bell by breaking opponents mentally. They miss, get frustrated, rush their work, fall into traps. Muratalla's mental preparation has been centered on accepting that he will miss, but you got to stay calm, understanding that rounds can be won without knockouts and without knockdowns, and trusting the process rather than chasing moments. That is very important for Muratalla. He's got to stay disciplined even when the crowd reacts to Cruz's movements. Robert Garcia emphasizes emotional control. Muratalla doesn't need to dominate Cruz. Not early at all. He just needs to stay in the fight, apply pressure consistently, and let the work compound. And then by the late rounds, who knows, he may end up getting a stoppage. But I'll just say, that's easier said than done. But just trying to understand the technical game plan and how Muratalla can really win this fight, man, I think several things need to happen for Muratalla to defeat Cruz. You got to establish a busy, authoritative jab, not just to score, but to disrupt Cruz's rhythm and vision. He must step laterally rather than straight forward, cutting off escape routes instead of following Cruz around the ring. When Cruz pivots, Muratalla must pivot with him. When Cruz counters, Muratalla must remain balanced and ready to respond, not admire his work. Body punches will be critical, even if they don't land cleanly. They send a message. Movement comes at a cost. Most importantly, Muratalla must make the fight uncomfortable without making it reckless. If he can do those things, make it uncomfortable without becoming reckless, Muratalla may be on to something, man. So, when you just think about that, the path to victory, in a nutshell, it's pressure, patience, and discipline. This fight isn't about flash, it's about attrition. If Muratalla stays patient, keeps his hands active, controls distance, and maintains elite conditioning, the fight will begin to shift in the middle rounds. Like you see it happen in a lot of fights. Matter of fact, I mentioned it the other day, I'm mentioning it again. When Maidana got in there with Mayweather in that first fight, and even the second fight. You just saw that by him being able to control the distance and with his conditioning and keeping his hands active, and he was just hitting Mayweather. He didn't care where he was hitting him. Illegal shots, he didn't care. He just made sure to keep touching him. Robert Garcia put that game plan together. Andy Cruz is a special fighter, but he ain't nobody out here is Floyd Mayweather. So I think if Muratalla can do these things, man, you're going to see the fight start to shift. Cruz is going to still land flashy shots, But Muratalla can win rounds through consistency, physicality, and ring control. And under Robert Garcia, I'm just telling you, don't sleep on Robert Garcia. Muratalla isn't trying to outbox Andy Cruz, and he's not going to, and Robert Garcia knows, because Robert Garcia was an ex-boxing champion who knows boxing. He knows Muratalla needs to outwork him, outlast him, outthink him. And that is how Muratalla can beat Andy Cruz. Easier said than done, though. But he has a good chance. I think it's a 50-50 fight, in my opinion. Two different styles. We're going to see who can impose their way. Y'all keep cool. About to do this next video, then go jogging. I'm in the breeze.